Ladies and gentlemen, this is Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn, joined as always. I'm talking about professional kickboxer, glory vet. I'm talking about the mechanic. Brandon, how you doing?
Doing good, man. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. Time to talk about some fights.
Absolutely. Let's talk about those fights. But first, Brandon, you know, we're both rocking that Art of MMA swag. Check the link below, artofmma.com/shop. I already decided the promo code this week's going to be What Happened. In honor of our good friend Curtis Blaydes. After the fight, if you watch the highlights, he was kind of sitting on the ground. He was like, what happened? Well, promo code What Happened saves you 15% this week. Make sure you check the link below and head on over there. We got a really dope Bruce Lee t-shirt that I just put in the shop. Well, excuse me, I don't want to get sued. Inspired by Bruce Lee. But you already know. All right, let's get on to some stuff. Brandon, we had some news kind of drop last second. It wasn't really a big news week, but the first thing I kind of want to start talking about was going into last week's UFC Vegas 19. Weight cutting was a huge issue last weekend. You know, our good friend Jared Gordon, God bless his wind. We'll talk about it a little bit later. In honor of Sergio. Sergio was definitely sitting on his shoulder. He just basically dominated Danny Chavez on the ground, but we will talk about that later. Congrats to Jared Gordon. But he missed weight by 5 pounds, 4 pounds technically, but still 5 pounds over that featherweight. Mark, you're talking about even the co-main event, Ketlen Vieira, she was 3 pounds over. Of course, the Rafael Oz fight got canceled because he was a record-setting 11.5 pounds overweight. And there was one more. Draco Rodriguez was about 5 pounds over as well. Brandon, we talked about this. ONE FC kind of does it a little bit better than most. But is there ever really going to be a fix for weight cutting issues in MMA?
To be honest, man, the only thing is to me is, I mean, there's two choices. Either one, you have people just fight at their walk around weight, or you maybe, or like they say, you just change weight divisions, which is like, you know, or should I say you add weight divisions. Like instead of always having that big gap of, you know, 155 to 170, you know, you maybe have a 165 division. Maybe people want to fight at 165, you know, because usually like in the early ones are 10 pounds, you know, but then there are some people who do cut. Like if we got like another fight that didn't happen was like, you know, the Bobby Green fight, you know, that was a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that.
Yeah, where he passed
out afterwards.
I would say this one. I mean, I've kind of suggested before, I think the only way you could ever possibly solve this problem is if you had more. I mean, if even Frankie Edgar cuts weight now, but if you had more Frankie Edgars to kind of just, you know, fought at their weight class, because you sign the contract and have the people weigh in, you know, within maybe a 5 or 10, give them a grace period, like 10 pounds of the contracted weight. And then you weigh them again, you know, like you would normally before fight night. And then they have an entire training camp to stay within that 10-pound weight cut, not like some dramatic weight cut that's going to send them to the hospital. But you also know you're not going to get a situation where, what was it last week? Marquez was like, he looked like he was 2 weight divisions above his opponent. He was just so much bigger. You see everybody like nowadays, it's just really like a game of who can cut the weight the farthest to have the biggest advantage come fight night without hurting yourself.
Yep.
And more often than not, what we're seeing is a failure and people are hurting themselves. I've never seen a card that had 4 fighters miss weight as dramatically as they did. And unfortunately, I went 0-2 on my picks last week because one of my fights got canceled. And that's also a problem with, you know, not just that, but we're obviously dealing with COVID. We're obviously dealing with something like that happened to who was it that was in the cage at the last second and didn't get his fight?
Skelly.
Skelly, yeah. Skelly was in the cage, and obviously something like that happens where Emmer's got back spasms, couldn't fight. You know, unfortunately, I've never seen it happen where the guy is actually already in the cage, but it does happen. And it's unfortunate. And then you add weight cutting on top of all those issues right now. I think that's a headache Dana White just doesn't want. So they're going to have to address this eventually to where there is a safer way, because fighters, I think even Sergio said at one point, like fighters are always going to try to take whatever advantage they can I think Alex Soto said it too. Like fighters are going to take whatever advantage they can as long as they're allowed to take it. And there's just got to be a better way, whether it's the ONE FC way or even more extreme, like what I just said, to balance it out. If everybody's kind of fighting at their own weight class, why do they need to cut? It's just you're risking your life and your performance. Because how many people have a rough weight cut and then come into the cage on Saturday and have nothing left?
Yeah,
and then they lose even more.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was Pat Curran. Pat Curran, when he used to fight, for Bellator, like he would fight at 145, but I think he used to walk around at like 175. So that's 30 pounds that dude would cut down to. It's like, man, like to me, like 30 pounds, man, is so much. Like to me, it's like fighters need to either change your walk around weight to where you're not so heavy. Because that's a lot of things too. Like a lot of guys like just balloon up and become so much heavy. Like to me, if you're gonna be at a certain weight, like I probably say like no more than maybe 15 pounds, So like, hey, if you're fighting at 155, you should be walking around like 170. That way you can just get down there, boom, you're just good to go.
And you see it with Khabib. Khabib struggles to make 155. He's had a couple close weight cuts, even though he's the champion. I got into a little bit, not a spat, but like I was going back and forth on Twitter about somebody, and they were talking about what's next for Usman, and they didn't want to see Masvidal, and I was like, in a dream world, we see Khabib go up to fight Usman, because that would be a great fight, like with two guys that can kind of strike decently and have great wrestling. And he was like, Khabib's too small. I was like, Khabib walks around at 185 pounds. Like it's not even a secret. He walks around at 185 pounds. If Khabib cut down to 170, he'd have so much more strength than he has at 155. He'd be a completely different fighter, and he's about the same height, I think, as Usman. Yeah. Usman just looks bigger because at fight night, he's, he goes in 170. He probably walks around 190, I think, maybe even 200. So for him to cut down to 170, Khabib cut down to 170, it's not as much of a mismatch as people think. Same thing as people talking about Usman even going up to fight Izzy at 185. These guys aren't as much different weight classes as people really think when they're walking around. And there's even people that think Izzy can go all the way up and pull a Roy Jones and go all the way up to heavyweight if he really, really wanted to. I don't think he will, but it's possible. I mean, him going up to like maybe 215, 220 and fighting, being a faster heavyweight.
Yeah.
Especially if he wants that John Jones fight, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's my rant on weight cutting. In some other news, Kevin Lee's about to make his return. I didn't realize he had 2 ACL surgeries, one 9 months ago, one 6 months ago. He feels like he's about to be ready for a full 6-week camp. The name on his lips is Tony Ferguson. He feels Ferguson, in his, mid to late 30s might be a good matchup. Ferguson needs to get back on the winning track if he wants to keep his career going. Kevin Lee needs to get back on his winning track. He's fought a couple of tough fights he lost. He lost to Gaethje and Oliveira. So, not bad losses, but they are losses, and he needs to get a win, especially after the injury and the layoff. So if they do match up, do you think Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson, do you think who would have the advantage in that fight?
To be honest with you, man, one, I'm down to see that fight because they actually fought before. They fought before. They had fought for the interim title. Tony Ferguson won. He had caught him in a submission. So I'm kind of down to see this fight again. And plus two, now Kevin Lee is now hanging out with Faraz Sahabi and them in Montreal. So I mean, different camp, different mindset. I'm really kind of down to see how it goes. I want to say, man, it might be a little too early to kind of really for me to kind of gauge on who has the upper hand because this is a new Kevin Lee. But I mean, off the jump, I kind of do want to say Kevin Lee off the last couple of fights I've seen Tony Ferguson in. But then again, Tony Ferguson was just going up with straight killers though. So
same two guys, yeah. And I would say this. I said this after the last fight. Tony Ferguson actually looked good his last fight. He just was against Oliveira, who was just outmatching him in every spot.
Yep.
Who doesn't Oliveira outmatch right now in every spot? If Tony Ferguson was in against the Kevin Lee last fight, that might have been a Tony Ferguson win, or any other lightweight for that matter. I don't think Tony Ferguson's one of those guys, and I think Khabib said it maybe the other day. He was on an interview and he was talking about, he doesn't think Conor will have another run in him, not because of Conor, but just it's very hard for fighters to have 2 peaks in their career. He says if Ferguson was a heavyweight, he might have a better run in him, but most lightweights aren't successful in their late 30s and into 40s. It's just facts as far as, what he considers. And he's not really wrong. You don't see too many lightweight fighters fighting at that high of a level, especially a championship level, in their late 30s. It's more of a fast pace. And when you start to slow down, you really fall victim to these faster, more aggressive fighters. So I think Ferguson can still win some fights. I just don't know if he can win against some top level. The only question is, how good is, Kevin Lee's always relied a lot on his athleticism. If you're coming off 2 ACL surgeries, how athletic are you? I guess that will be seen and said. Another person coming back off of a suspension, though, we're talking about TJ Dillashaw. He's basically saying, without saying it, he's like, kind of responding to people, but he's like, yeah, I probably deserve a straight instant title shot when I come back. I'm one of those people. I've asked Jessica Penny for coming back and kind of still getting the UFC after being gone for 3 years. I think Dillashaw needs to win a fight or two to prove that he wasn't just a PED fighter. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you on that. That to me, he needs to get a fight in, because I mean, you look at Dominic Cruz. He had to take a fight, and he too was a champion. He was inactive because of his injuries, so they stripped him of the belt. He came back. I think he had not one, but maybe 2 fights, and then he got his title shot. Yeah. But that's because I think he had fought in, and I think he got injured again. That was maybe why. But yeah, I mean, like TJ Dillashaw, bro, like your last fight, you got knocked out against Henry Cejudo. So you got nothing to say about coming in and trying to get a title shot.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a lot of these divisions have gotten deeper since Henry Cejudo. You just messed me up and said it like that. Since Triple C retired. These divisions have gotten way deeper, and it's not just the top, the Figueiredos and everybody else. It's, you got Alex Perez, and you got some of these fighters. You got older fighters coming back like Matt Schnell and all these guys, these lower weight classes. And that's another fight that just got matched up. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But I just think, I think you got to earn it. And when you come off, you look at the last fight was a loss. And then also, he just got suspended for PEDs.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to prove yourself.
Yeah, I mean, also too, I'm saying his last fight was a loss for the flyweight title when he's the bantamweight champion. So I mean, dude, like your last fight wasn't even in your weight division that you're trying to get a belt at. And like Corey Sandhagen said it, he was like, "Yo, if he wants to come in, I'll let Aljo and Peter Yan fight for the belt. But if TJ's gonna come in, he should fight me first. So I mean, hey man, if you really want to get that belt, earn it.
Sandhagen should absolutely be next in that division. He's earned it. He's went through 2 former champions. Yeah, Marlon Moraes was champion in another promotion, but 2 former champions. Obviously, Frankie Edgar's legacy and resume speaks for itself. And he just went through both those guys. Sandhagen doesn't get the next title shot, then something's seriously wrong in the UFC. Speaking of some changes and exciting things, Anthony Pettis, of course, moved over to PFL. Finally got the first fight announcement. He's going to be fighting Clay Collard in the week 1 of their 2021 season. On that card, you also got some really good fights. You got defending champion Natan Schulte going against veteran Marcin Held. That's going to be awesome. Bubba Jenkins versus Lance Palmer. I'm looking forward to that one. You also have Kay Bulev versus Soares on the main card. That's all going to be on ESPN2 that night. And then on the preliminaries, you got Case versus Rashabov, Alban Mercier versus Lutterbach, Ali versus Odenstoff, Diamond versus Shungbin, and then Lafnane versus Marias. Which of those fights are you really looking forward to most, Brandon?
To be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to the Marcin Held, Natan Schulte fight, because actually that's the fight that I wanted to see. That's the fight that I actually told the PFL, because they had put out a tweet saying like, oh,
look at Brandon taking credit for matchmaking now.
Hey man, I'm taking they listen to me. They know what's best.
Follow at B Cuttino TSMA if you want all your fight suggestions.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to that fight. I mean, I've been a big fan of Marcin Held ever since he was in Bellator. So I'm kind of looking to see how he's gonna do in the PFL. And then also too, I'm really looking forward for the Lance Palmer of Bubba Jenkins fight. Like, to me, man, it's been a minute since we've seen Bubba Jenkins fight. I mean, when he first came out, he was a highly touted prospect, But to me, man, what happened was he was just gym hopping all the time. So you never really found the home. But now I think he has one, and I kind of want to see what he's about now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm first and foremost looking forward to Anthony Pettis. We all want to see what happens. Like we've seen Benson Henderson and Roy McDonald, all these guys go over to Bellator. You see the ups and downs. You never really know what happens when somebody leaves that UFC cage, whether the grass is greener or not. You saw somebody like Anthony Rumble Johnson left a number of years, reclaimed his entire throne, came back even a brighter star when he came back to the UFC. So Collar's coming off a couple decent wins. He's never really fought on the big stage in the last 5 years. His last, I think 2015 is the last time he was in the UFC. He does have some major experience, though. He's fought Max Holloway. He's fought veterans on the independent scene like Nick Compton and some of those guys. So he's been around. He's not a new kid. He is 27, though. He's still pretty young considering. So it's going to be a tough fight for Anthony Pettis. It's not going to be a walkover. And we'll see if Anthony Pettis is ready to make PFL Showtime and go with that. I'm also looking for the Bubba Jenkins-Lance Palmer fight. I think that's going to be I think that might even be one of Lance Palmer's toughest challenges to keeping his title, his tournament crown.
Usually when you have two wrestlers going at it, it becomes a striking match. So let's see who has the better striking.
In that case, I think Bubba Jenkins' experience might actually be even more than Lance Palmer's. Lance Palmer didn't have a lot of success outside of PFL. Yeah. So he's kind of found his niche there. Maybe this is his home. That's his yard, but we'll see. A few other fight changes coming up lately and announcements. They did announce Holly Holm versus Juliana Pena. So Pena will not be getting the Amanda Nunes fight that none of us thought she was going to actually get anyway. But I do think she got a pretty marquee fight in Holly Holm. I didn't even know she'd get a fight that marquee. You saw last weekend so many fights dropping out at the last second. Of course, closest fight with Pena was dropped before the card because somebody in closest corner tested positive. Emmer suffered the back injury with Skelly, and he was stuck in the cage. We'd like to get a lot of these changes before the fight card, so I'm pretty excited, pretty happy to notice they announced some of these things going into them early. Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder is a rematch that they got going on that was kind of announced at the last second. They'll be fighting next week at UFC 20. Alex Perez back in the cage after his loss against Figueiredo last year. He's going to be fighting the veteran Matt Schnell, who's coming off that win over Tyson Nam. We're still looking for an opponent for Alex Oliveira. Randy Brown is out, so we'll see what comes up with that. We also have Barcelos is out against his fight this weekend against Rojo, so Rojo's looking for a new opponent. Gavin Tucker is in for Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall's out against Dan Ige on March 13th. And then the latest, Felicia Spencer is going to be fighting Danielle Wolf at a UFC event in May. There's also some big ones that we haven't actually talked about that came in right after last week's episode. Bilal Muhammad's going to be taking on Leon Edwards to main event that March 13th show. Bilal Muhammad looked incredible his last fight just last week. Do you think it's too quick of a turnaround, or do you think that he's going to be competitive with Leon Edwards?
I mean, he's going to be competitive. Like, I mean, he wanted
it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, like, I mean, he wanted a quick turnaround. So I mean, he got what he wanted. You know, I'm sure he'll be probably resting a little bit, and then he'll start to pick things up when things get a little bit closer.
Yeah, and there's a couple other fights that are kind of off in the distance, and the way fights have been kind of dropping off and coming, I kind of hesitate to even announce them because you never know. They just announced Shakunov versus Superman Ryan Spahn on March 13th, so that's another fight added to that card. Charles Jourdain versus Steve Garcia. So it's starting to mount up that March 13th card to go behind Edwards and Muhammad. So that's looking pretty exciting. Real quick before we talk about UFC Vegas 19, LFA had their 100th card just last Friday. In the main event, we saw, I'm going to butcher his name. Victor Morano defeated Nate Smith by unanimous decision to keep his flyweight title. Charles Johnson also beat Carly Pangelian by Anaconda choke in the second round. So congrats to LFA on 100. Look forward to the next 100. Of course, a lot of their fighters end up going on Dana White's Contender Series, and they have a pretty good relationship with the UFC, kind of similar to the way the CFFC does here on the East Coast. So looking forward to more of their cards. Brandon, you ready to talk about some fights?
Yep.
All right. We're just going to jump right into it. Mr. Cuttino over there went 2-1 this week. I went 0-2, but I think we're both probably pretty happy to have lost that main event. We were both talking about it before. Our hearts kind of said Derrick Lewis. Our minds just said Blaydes was going to wrestle and do what he has to do. You were texting me during the fight how you weren't surprised that Blaydes was standing with him, and I said I was. And then I think I saw it before you did on your feed because you were like, he's doing all right. And I'm like, he's asleep. I was like, he's asleep. Let's talk about the main event first, and then we'll work our way down. Curtis Blaydes came out that first round, and he was standing with him. He tried to do a couple takedowns. Lewis stuffed him. He hit him with a shot the first time he tried to do it, and Blaydes kind of backed off. But then you were right. Blaydes was having some success with distance. He was having some success kind of piecing up Derrick Lewis. But I've seen enough Derrick Lewis fights. I didn't know it was going to turn out like that. But you know he kind of waits for his moment sometimes. You saw it in the Alexei Oleinikov fight. You saw it this fight. Second round, Blaydes shot for that takedown. He didn't even – here's how strong Derrick Lewis is. If you watch the replay, he didn't hit him with his fist. He threw that uppercut so hard, his entire forearm came and crushed against Blaydes' jaw, and Blaydes was unconscious for several moments. I don't know how long, but even when he got up, he was sitting there and they were talking to him. He was just like, what happened? He had no idea what happened. That's just how amazingly strong. Daniel Cormier said himself, Lewis might be the strongest guy in that division, including Ngannou. He thinks that's the reason why him and Ngannou had such a snooze fest. From your expertise, break down that fight for me more than I just did.
Yeah, no, man. Like Derrick Lewis called him, man. He was just waiting on that uppercut the entire time. He was waiting for Blaydes to shoot for him. Like you see that, like you watch that fight. Blaydes, he was doing some good things striking. He was trying to do some things, like he was trying to throw some feints. You know, he was trying to fake Derrick Lewis out. You know, he was feinting, feinting on the punches, feinting on the takedown, but Derrick Lewis wasn't biting. That was the only problem. If Derrick Lewis would bite on those feints, Curtis Blaydes, he would have been a lot more successful. But the thing was, like, anytime you see Curtis Blaydes would feint, Derrick Lewis just stood there. Didn't move, didn't flinch, nothing. He was just waiting for the moment, and then boom, that moment came, and he just caught him with that uppercut. It was good timing. It was basically his arm was going up, Blaydes' chin was going down. They met. It was a wrap. Fight was over. That was it. Black Beast came out, did his thing.
Do you think Derrick Lewis's last fight with Oleinik kind of helped him in this fight? Because Oleinik had him on the ground and Derrick Lewis never panicked. Oleinik basically is one of the most dangerous submission guys in that division on the ground, even though he's getting up there in age. He's still the boa constrictor. He can still put you out.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of helped him, like, not be panicked if Blaydes took him down? Because Derrick Lewis is really good at getting back to his feet.
Yeah, I probably really want to say before that fight, he's calm and cool, because I really want to say every time you see him on the ground, to me, he doesn't panic. He just waits his time, because like you said, he is an explosive guy. So he waits till like the right time, and then boom, he'll just try to explode out, and then he'll get back up. So I just want to say, I probably want to say that could be maybe one of the things that he really works on. Is just like, if he gets taken down, it's just all about getting up. It's not about jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or anything like that. It's just about let me defend, let me get back up, so I get back to start throwing my punches.
Yeah, and that's not to say Blaydes didn't catch him a few times. Blaydes absolutely caught him a few times, and you can see Derrick Lewis got rocked a couple times, but it's going to take more than a couple.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if Curtis, like, I don't know if it was just the wrestler in him or if it was the game plan, but to me, man, he maybe could have won that fight just standing up. If he could have just popped his jab, he was using those leg kicks, just kept on doing that the entire time, he could have won. I'm telling you, man, if you really watch, like, you could win a fight on a jab and a low kick. That's it. Those two things, you can win a fight. If you got it good, you can win a fight that way.
I said on Twitter, I thought the second round he was going to start wrestling. I thought it was his strategy to begin with when I saw him not taking him down in the first round, kind of like setting him up.
Yeah.
Curtis Blaydes, that's just what he does. he's got a few knockouts, but let's be real. He wants to take you down and play it safe.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it's safer on the ground. That's where his better bread and butter is. And for Lewis's credit, he was just waiting. But you got to realize Lewis has only been submitted one time in his entire career. And that was Daniel Cormier when he got him in that rear naked choke. Every other time he's lost a couple decisions, but the rest are all knockouts. It's either I'm taking your head off or you're taking mine. He had that one loss to Junior Dos Santos in 2019, which I think was probably an upset coming right off his title shot against DC. Well, other than that, he had that 4th round loss to Mark Hunt back in 2017, which was a knockout. Sean Jordan knocked him out. Mitrione knocked him out. This is going back to 2014.
Yeah.
So you pretty much have to go toe-to-toe. And DC wasn't wrong. That Ngannou fight, yes, Ngannou was kind of gun-shy. He didn't want to pull the trigger after that Stipe fight. He was a little bit shell-shocked after his first loss. But also Derrick Lewis is so patient. He's going to wait for you to do what you do, and then he's going to take your head off. I've been very hard on Herb Dean for a long time. I don't think what happened after this knockout was his fault. I think it was just happened so quickly. I think even John McCarthy said, Derrick Lewis can throw 2 or 3 of those bombs in the matter of 1 second. In the middle of Herb Dean kind of moving around, there was no way he could have been that close to stop Lewis from throwing 2 more punches. And Lewis, for his credit, says the referee says in the back, you throw until I stop you. Because even John McCarthy said, what happens if Blaydes hits that ground and wakes back up?
Yep.
Which is another, could snap back awake. So it's unfortunate that he had to eat those 2 extra shots, but unfortunately it's also part of the fight game. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like Blaydes is okay. So, he only has like a month suspension. It's not even that long. Let's talk about the co-main. We're talking about, and props to Brandon. He got this one right. Yana Kunitskaya versus Ketlen Vieira. Ketlen was pretty heavily favored, but Yana's got the experience. She's fought against some tougher people, and to much people's surprise, she had Thiago Santos, who I think they kind of have something going on. I've seen some Instagram posts, but in her corner, Thiago actually a pretty good corner man. He was shouting out some pretty good instructions, kept Yana focused, and it's hard to judge that fight for me. I'm not saying she didn't win, but it's really effective striking versus cage control. Like that's always seems to be a debate in some fights like that. I know you thought Yana was going to win beforehand, but did you think she won the fight?
Yes, I did.
But just because of the effective striking, I mean, it was clearly 1 round each going into the 3rd round, right? So
yeah, yeah. So I want to say what she lost the first round.
The first round was Ketlen because she controlled the ground most of the round. The second round was Yana because she stayed mostly on her feet. And then the 3rd round, Ketlen had the ground, but she was getting eaten shots. And then that last minute they got up and she got tore up.
Yeah, that exactly. Because I remember I think I saw on Twitter. I think somebody was trying to give it to Ketlen Vieira, and then I had kind of said oh, I don't know because now she's busted open. Now that's a major damage. It's one thing to give somebody a hematoma, a black eye, a bloody nose, but when you got a nasty cut like that, you get a nasty cut like that, oh, that's some serious damage. So that could have. So to me, that really could have been a 2-point swing in that last round. Right there, so that's the reason why I gave it to Yana for the W.
Now I gave it to Yana too, but I think it's more. It wasn't even the last barrage of punches that really and all the stuff she did the last minute that helped obviously, but it was one of those things where while Ketlen was trying to get position on her on the ground, you just saw Yana hitting her and hitting her. Even when she had her back, Yana was going over her shoulder She was constantly hitting her, and at some point, having position in MMA isn't guaranteed to win a fight anymore, and that's a good thing because it keeps people from laying on you, right? It makes it more exciting. You have to actually move your position. You have to advance. You're either subbing them or you're ground and pounding them, but you got to do something. And a lot of times, these fighters have gotten trained now where they're in a bad position, but they're still throwing punches. They're still trying to hit you, and They don't just lay there trying to like get a stand up anymore. They try to fight back. And in this case, I think it was a good decision because Vieira controlled 3.5 minutes of that fight on the ground in the third round, but she wasn't doing anything.
Yep.
She was just trying to advance position while she was getting punched in the face.
Yeah. And the fight played out just like how I had said it was going to be. I told you it was going to be her jiu-jitsu versus Yana's striking. And that's all, to me, that's all what Vieira has is like, she just.
I'm going to start calling you Sergio 2.0.
What? I'm saying,
just like I said so. Like I told you.
Exactly. That is exactly what I said. Look at the tape. That's how I said the fight was going to be. And that's exactly what happened. Hey, striking, dominating.
You're bigger, but I'm going to call you little Sergio. God bless him, man. That's what he would say all the time. There's also some really good fights. Let's talk about Jared Gordon real quick, talking about Sergio. Obviously, Angel on his shoulder, as he said going into this fight. This time, Sergio was in his corner. Obviously, they've cornered each other quite a few times. Best friends. This was some Queens on Queens violence, though, because Danny Chavez is from Queens, too. I think both guys are fighting out of Florida now.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah, very close to each other. Jared Gordon, obviously from Astoria, Queens. He's done some stuff with Duke Rufus, but both of them were down in Florida for this fight. I think Gordon was with Sanford, right?
Yep, Gordon's with Sanford, and I believe Chavez with MMA Masters.
Yeah, so both of them pretty close. Coaches very familiar with each other. They were very friendly after the fight, but going into the fight, there was definitely some bad blood at the weigh-ins and everything else. Break down that fight for me.
Hey man, it was a good game plan by Jerry Gordon. You know, he went out, did his thing. Like I actually kind of thought it would have been a little bit more wrestling because I remember like when they were talking, I think and he's gonna say like, oh, you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna take you down. I'm gonna keep you there.
He said, I'm gonna take you down and beat you up.
Yeah, that kind of really wasn't how it was going. It was a little more stand up than what I really thought it was gonna be. But it was some good action, and like I said, I'm always happy that Jared won.
Well, once the second and third round came, he kind of took him down a lot more and took over.
Yeah,
it was almost like the Ngannou strategy. I'm not sorry, the Blaydes strategy, but he actually executed it.
Yeah, but it was a good fight, man. Good game, good game plan by him. And like the only thing I was bummed about, man, was that that's always the problem when you're the main event headliner for the prelims. When they go to the main card, if there's no time, you don't get that mic time. And I was really looking forward to hearing him on the mic.
Yeah, he got it. If you go on UFC, I'm not sure if it's on their Twitter feed or something. There is an interview that he did where he's talking about Sergio and he's talking about things going on in his life, apologizing for the weight miss and other things. So there is an interview out there. Feel free to look it up on Twitter. We retweeted it on Art of MMA. So go ahead and head over to our Twitter account, The Art of MMA, and we will. And you can find that interview with Jared Gordon. The other fight you picked, obviously, Phil Hawes versus Imavov. Hawes faded hard in that third round, but he held on, got the win. I don't even know if it should have been a majority decision. I don't know who actually gave Imavov the fight, but Imavov definitely controlled that last round. Break down that fight for me and tell me. I know how you're going to say like the first couple rounds, but tell me what really went wrong for Hawes in that third round.
I mean,
just ran out of gas.
Good fight by Hawes. By Phil. Striking, looking sharp because he was really pressuring him. Like he was really trying to get up in his grill, like right from the beginning. And then his striking was going well. His wrestling, of course, got his takedowns, kept them there. Basically, man, what happened in the third round was to me, man, he just got caught. That's all what happened. He got caught. He was wobbled, and he just held on. That's really, to me, from my eyes, that's what happened. He got caught. He was rocked.
He did a real good job of clinching when he was in trouble. Almost like boxing. Almost like boxing. Like he clinched like as soon as he got in trouble.
Exactly. He clinched them, took him down, held them there, or and just kept them there until he had to do something. But to me, in my eyes, that's what happened. Was he just got clipped. He was rocked a little because you could see it because I think I kind of want to say I think my boy almost did the stanky leg, but then he caught himself, and then
he did it a couple times. He got rocked a couple times,
but then he held on. But
like he said, he didn't fall down.
Exactly, because I mean, he even said it like in his post fight interview, like saying, man, like saying he's definitely had some downs. You know what I'm saying? He was on he had his tryout for the Ultimate Fighter, lost that. His first Dana White Contender Series, he lost that. And that's what he was saying. He was just saying like now, man, he's just mentally stronger than what he was before. Because like you said, if this was him, 2 years ago, whatever, he would have dropped. He probably would have lost that fight, but he was just mentally tough for this time.
Yeah, he got caught in the second round too, but it was a little later. And I think that kind of gave Imavov the confidence to stand and strike with Hawes in that third round. But to Hall's credit, he got rocked. He was clearly tired too. And he just kept coming. He kept staying on his feet. He didn't let the fight get stopped. He did enough to keep it alive so he can win the decision. You go back to the gym, you make some adjustments. And hopefully you don't get caught in that next fight. By the way, I know. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I mean, he definitely wants a quick turnaround because he was basically calling out Chris Weidman and
he couldn't say Uriah Hall's
Hall.
name, but yeah, he was like Uriah something, Uriah Hall. Real quick, we will talk about what's next for some of these fighters. I'm just trying to get through some of these results. I kind of skipped it in the beginning when we talked about Blaydes and Lewis, so we'll kind of circle back to that. You can click on the bottom. We got a table of contents. Just go towards the end of this segment, and we'll get what's next. But we're a little bit out of order today, so I apologize. But since we're already doing it, a couple other fights that kind of marquee in the heavyweight. Aspinall took out Arlovsky. Chris Daukaus took out Olenek. Common sense would say they should fight each other. However, while Aspinall is looking to fight Daukaus really isn't looking for that. So we'll talk about that in a second. Julian Erosa with the flying knee knockout. I wonder if that was a little quick stoppage. But I guess when you go limp like that for even a second, the ref has to do what he has to do. Especially just when a matter of seconds before that, Landwehr basically dropped Erosa. And then Erosa came back up, flurried, and then dropped Landwehr, and then the ref stopped the fight. I saw the replay, and when Landwehr got up, his legs, like his mind was like, I can still fight. But his legs
his legs went out. Yeah, he wobbled back.
So I do think it was a good stoppage, but I think maybe they could have let that at least go another second or two to see. Casey O'Neill with an impressive debut against Shauna Dobson. Zahibi knocked out Rodriguez. That was crazy. So some good fights on there. Let's talk about what's next for some of them. We just kind of hinted at it. Aspinall and Daukaus, I think, would be the obvious matchup. But Daukaus seems to have his mind made up that he wants to fight a higher ranked fighter. I don't know if you always get what you wish for, but in this case, is he going to get what he's wished for? Like, who can he really go up? Will he fight the winner of maybe Rosenstruck and Ginn?
I mean, I want to say Daukaus just got ranked, so he's now top 10. But I don't think Aspinall is even ranked. So
he's not.
Yeah, so
I mean, but he's not.
Yeah, so I mean, I see Daukaus, getting somebody in the top 10 at least. Aspinall, he might maybe get somebody in the top 15. But I mean, I could see it though, where it is that Daukaus does get maybe the winner of this weekend. Because there's some names like there, and then maybe Aspinall could get who the heck was the heavyweight?
I was thinking it'd be a good matchup for him is Walt Harris.
Yeah, because Walt Harris is number 11 right now, right? Yeah. Walt Harris is number 11. Yeah,
him or Sergey Pavlovich, because Sergey's 13.
Yeah, so I mean, I can see that for Aspinall. I mean, if I was him, I would probably shoot for the Walt Harris fight. Why not? Why not go after number 11? And I'm sure, and I can see him win. I can see him winning that fight too.
I haven't seen him fight in a while, but maybe Augustus Sake, who's number 9. Honestly, I don't even know how he got up that high, but I guess heavyweights can come and go so quickly.
Yeah.
Dos Santos, who was always in the top 5, is now all the way down to 12 after some recent losses. So, and then Taburo's really low. He's like number 15. I thought he should be much higher. But that's just my personal opinion. Some other fighters that made some names for him. Derek Minner had a really good performance over Charles Rosa. He mostly fights in that 145-pound division. What would be a good fight for Derek coming up?
Man, I I'm like, man, 45 is so like stacked. I mean, shoot.
I mean, he's not
like,
ranked, but he was impressive. I could see somebody like even like I know Bryce Mitchell wants to fight a higher ranked fighter, but somebody like Bryce Mitchell would be good for him. Maybe even Arnold Allen. So I think Allen has a fight coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I was say Allen got matched up. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, man, I don't really know. What's his name? Actually, no, he's ranked. He's in the top 15. I was gonna say Touchy Feely, but no, he's ranked though. He's like top 10, right?
Actually, he fell out after that last loss.
Oh, then maybe
Andre Feely be a good matchup.
Yeah, maybe Touchy Feely.
Let's talk about those ladies. Who do you see going next for? Let's start with the winner. Let's talk about Yana. What would be good for her next?
What was she? Wasn't she like ranked?
They were both ranked. As of today, they are now. Let's see where Ketlen fell to. Yana's now number 5, and Ketlen's down to number 7 now.
I mean, I could see Yana maybe getting the winner of the Holly Holm Penne fight.
I could see that. I actually thought maybe she better, and I've heard talk about it already, so maybe I'm cheating a little bit. Yana versus Irene Aldana. I thought that was a really good matchup. Both of them would like to stand and fight.
2 strikers. I'm down for that fight.
That would be awesome. Irene being back at her natural weight class at 135, where she fought at 145 against Holmes. So that would be a better fight. As far as Vieira goes, I think she needs to get back on the horse. She could fight the loser of Holly Holm versus Pena. I definitely think that would be a good fight. Maybe even somebody like Sarah McMahon, who won't challenge her too much on the feet, might try to take her down and wrestle her and try to submit her. So that would be a good matchup as well. What do you think about Ketlen? Where do you think she should fight?
Yeah, man. No, I just really like Sarah McMahon. Just she just came off a loss, so why not? You're both coming off L's, so why not? That's usually what they do. But yeah, I mean, you go, yeah. Like I would like that fight because it's two wrestlers, jiu-jitsu. Just hopefully Sarah McMahon is working on her defense.
And real quick before we get to the heavyweights, because I skipped over it, Jared Gordon, obviously, fan favorite of the show. So I have a hard time seeing what's next for him, though, because he took those tough losses at 155, came back down to 145, but missed weight. He said himself in that post-fight interview that 155 is too much of they're just too big for him, and that he's more comfortable at 145, but he did miss weight, as did a lot of people on his card. So I kind of wonder what was going on with that. But I also find a hard time finding him for another fight at 145, at least against a ranked opponent.
Because I'm gonna say, why not? Well, he's not ranked, so why not have him go up against what's the name?
That we just talked
Erosa, who won with the flying knee kick.
Erosa or even Derek Minner. I mean, there's another guy we just talked about.
Yeah.
But if anybody ranked, I think the only person that really makes sense for me is maybe Barboza's dropped all the way to 14. Obviously him and Shane probably aren't going to fight. They're probably too friendly. I don't know for sure, but they're coming up in the same area, New York, New Jersey. Maybe if Arnold Allen loses and falls down a little bit, that's another guy. Allen's tough for me because he's ducked so many people that now he's actually fighting. I just don't even expect him to win, to be honest with you. But we'll see. Let's talk about these big boys, and then we'll move on to our picks for UFC Vegas 20. I have a hard time seeing what's next for Derrick Lewis because of the fact that now they announced that John Jones is going to get that title shot against the winner of Stipe and Ngannou. I think the name that Derrick Lewis wants, which makes zero sense, but it's only a personal thing, is Overeem. He really wants to beat Overeem because Overeem's talked trash to him. But if we're talking realistically and we're talking about rankings, then I think the situation really is, does he fight Rosenstruck if he wins or Gane, or another guy who just was really impressive against Overeem, Volkov.
He already fought Volkov, knocked him out, remember?
Yeah, but Volkov has come up since then.
Yeah. Now, if I'm him, you're doing two things. Either one, you sit out, you wait, you get your title shot, or you want to stay busy, you get Overeem. That's it. If I'm him, because the fight he wants is Overeem.
I don't want to see that fight. I feel like he's going to hurt Overeem. I don't want to see that. I think Overeem, that would be a retirement fight.
Hey, this is the hurt business, you know, and I'm not talking about Bobby Lashley and the MVP right now, but we don't want to talk
about how hurt Brandon was after he lost that U.S. title before he saw what was figuring out. But all right,
nope. Hey, business is still booming because now he has that WWE championship, baby. Business is still booming.
All right? We're getting sidetracked, but we're not going to talk about the messages that were coming across when he lost the U.S. title. But all right.
But I'm just saying though, man. Like if I'm Derrick Lewis, why not, man? You either wait or you get the fight which is one Overeem. And if you're Overeem, you probably take that fight anyway because if you beat Derrick Lewis, then you're kind of automatically back in the title picture.
Yeah, I think Overeem will take any fight offered to him at this point. I think he wants to keep fighting. I don't think he'll say no to anyone. I do think if Rosenstruck wins, he's obviously he'll probably skip Blaydes in the rankings and go 2-3. That makes sense if they want a contender fight. But it's just so hard because now that John Jones is jumping in there, John Jones instantly pretty much without being ranked is now the number 2 ranked guy behind Ngannou.
Because I would say too, but I probably see if to me whoever wins this weekend, to me they will probably fight Volkov, and they'll knock that person out because after Volkov because Overeem beat Rosenstruck, you know, and Overeem was basically in the mix of getting a title shot if he probably beat Volkov. Well, now Volkov came out blasting.
Overeem lost to Rosenstruck. Oh, remember that fifth round where he got stopped at the end?
You're right. I'm sorry. I mean, Rosenstruck, he was on the rise, but then he lost his next fight anyway.
Man, that feels good. You always correct me all the time because I'm wrong a lot. And now I finally got to correct you just once. It feels good. By the way, while you guys are looking, make sure you get Art of MMA t-shirt. Anyway. Go ahead.
But that's what I think. I think the winner this weekend will probably get Volkov, and I say, man, just Derrick Lewis. If he gets a fight, it'll be Overeem, or he's just gonna sit out and he'll take his title fight. Because
what does this mean for Blaydes? Because Blaydes was on a roll until he got knocked out by Lewis.
Either Blaydes could get Overeem, maybe if they won't give Overeem to Derrick Lewis, or Blaydes could get the loser of this weekend.
I think my personal, and we'll get to this in a second, but personally, I think that Blaydes is going to be stuck waiting for a while because there's so many things that need to work out over the next few weeks that unless Derrick Lewis takes the Volkov fight, which you said, he doesn't really have much to gain by because he's already beat Volkov. I think Blaydes might have to take that Volkov fight to kind of stay in that top spot that he's already earned. And make sure this looks like a fluke and not the real deal. So I think Blaydes, though, is going to be stuck waiting until the fall, at least, if not longer, till all this works out. Because, you know, Ngannou's Stipe is happening next month. And then when's that Jones fight happen? In the fall? Next year?
I felt like they said maybe September is what they look for.
They say that, but how many times has Stipe won and then sat on the sidelines for almost a year?
Hey, man, if Ngannou drops him, then we don't have to worry about Stipe.
Now, I don't think that's happening. I think it's going to be a replay of the second one. But anything else you want to talk on this card before we move on to our picks?
Nah, man, I'm ready.
All right. Last week, Mr. Brandon Cuttino pulled off the 2-1 record. If you give me 1 second, I will pull up our current standings. I got to pull up last episode real quick to check because I was a lazy host and I did not update it in my document like I should have. But the great thing is if I want to edit this, I can drop it out. But that said, Brandon Cuttino is now 9-8, rocking over 500. I am now 10-6. I will give Brandon the extra win, even though my fight dropped out. I'm hoping Sabatini gets a fight real quick because I was really excited about seeing him back in the cage, or seeing him step up into the UFC cage. All right, let's talk about Rosenstruck versus Ginn. real quick, we'll talk about the main event. I will let you get started and make your pick first.
All right. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this fight, I was a little like at first I was like Rosenstruck, because I was like, all right, he's the better well, I should say he has the more experience in kickboxing with the record. But the thing is though, Ginn, he's a finisher. That dude finishes people, and he can do it striking and he can do it standing. So I'm going with Ginn for the W, because if you look at Rosenstruck, like you said, man, he was losing against Overeem, then he caught him in the 5th round. And then once he went up against Ngannou, in my head is like, I'm looking at that fight. And if you're such this experienced kickboxer, like Ngannou's just straight went forward and was missing like crazy because he was just swinging wild.
Yeah,
but Rosenstruck didn't, but he didn't make him miss and pay. Like there was like no defense there. So to me, is like, why can't Ginn do the exact same thing? And plus, I think he's more accurate with his strikes, unlike Ngannou.
So who are you picking?
Ginn.
Okay. You went around a little bit there. I was like, wait, you talking about Ginn? You talking about Rosa? Okay. All right. So you got Ginn. I actually do too. I think Cyril Ginn, he looked really impressive in his last fight, even though it was against an aging Junior Dos Santos. He did what he was supposed to do. 7-0, every level of competition he steps up, he wins. He controlled that fight with Tanner Bosser, even though it did go to the decision. Every other fight has been a knockout or submission. I think the one thing that Ginn can do that Rosenstruck can't do is submit. He can do a heel hook, he can do a choke. So I think Ginn is more well-rounded than Rosenstruck. And you're right. In that fight against Ngannou came out Mike Tyson-like and just swinging. And Rosenstruck looked like a deer in headlights because half those shots missed, but it only took one to get through to really put him to sleep. And then that was it. He did look much improved, but once again, he fought an aging Junior Dos Santos just like Ginn. So both of them had the same opponent, both of them going into it 11-1 versus 7-0. Both of them in their early 30s. I really think Ginn just has more all-round game. And if it goes to the ground, Ginn's going to win this fight. If it stays standing, I think probably Ginn's going to win this fight. So people are sleeping on Ginn. He's a little lower ranked, but I definitely just see Ginn winning. Ginn's 7, Rosenstruck's 4. So we're going to see probably, I think, a ranking shift in this one. Co-main event, you got Nikita Kirov versus Ankalaev. Who you got and why?
Ankalaev. Kirov, man, he's been win-loss. He's just going back and forth. I just think he's gonna get dominated this fight. I don't think it's gonna be pretty. Like you were just saying with Overeem and Lewis, you don't want to see that fight. Like this fight, you maybe want to turn away from this one as well, because I just think he's gonna get destroyed probably.
I'm torn. And I'll tell you why. I'm actually picking Krylov only because, one, I feel like he's the bigger fighter. People forget Krylov used to be a heavyweight, cut back down to 205, got himself in shape, kind of like took the Daniel Cormier route, finally got in shape, became more successful. His losses, first of all, he lost his last 2 losses. He lost to the now champ, Blachowicz. He got caught in a arm triangle choke. And he lost a split decision against Glover, who's been killing everybody, including Thiago Santos. So those 2 losses, and then he beat Johnny Walker, he beat St. Preux, he beat Fabio Maldonado, who we know is just, he'll walk through hellfire and brimstone to keep fighting you, even at his upper age. Since he's come back to the UFC, he's 2-2, but those 2 losses are against a title contender and a now champion. While Ankalaev left no dispute over that Cutelaba fight. Obviously, first one they thought maybe it was a fluke. Well, turned out it wasn't a fluke. Very patient, picked his shots. We talked about it back in October. He looked very impressive. But his only fight was also a submission loss to Paul Craig that he's lost in 2018. He hasn't fought the level of competition that Krylov has fought. So I'm going to go with Krylov in that one. Maybe I can get back on my 2-0 and give you the L. But, I got to have hope somewhere. Go ahead and pick another fight on that card, and for your sake, I hope it actually takes place this time.
Well, you know what fight I'm picking.
I'm not touching this fight. I already got jinxed on this once. I'm not touching it.
I'm going with the Rivera Munoz fight, number 2. You know, I got to support my teammate Jimmy Rivera. I think he's gonna get in there, do his thing like he did the last time, and he's gonna get that hand raised. I think, man, I really want to say I think he has the better boxing. Yeah, I think he has the better overall striking, and I really want to say he's probably the better wrestler. I want to say the only thing Munoz maybe could be better at is jiu-jitsu, maybe, you know, but I just think overall Jimmy's just the better fighter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste any time on that one. Go back 2 weeks, watch what I said. We debated this fight already. I picked Jimmy Rivera. That was my pick of the week 2 weeks ago. I don't change it now. I just don't think Munoz has the consistency, and I think Jimmy is only lost to top dog. So I think Jimmy Rivera is going to win that fight, and I don't even think it's going to go to decision. I think it's going to be a stoppage. My fight of the week, Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder. I think that's going to be an extremely fun fight. It is a rematch. They fought quite a while ago, back in 2017 in the tough final in Ultimate Fighter 25. Angela Hill won that fight then. I think she's going to win it now. I think it's going to be a fun, exciting fight. Probably won't go to the ground at all. They'll probably just stand and bang. In that case, it's all Angela Hill all day. You really have to have a tough chin to stand up to Angela Hill. You have to be a Michelle Waterson or somebody that can kind of mix it up, grapple, and take those shots and keep coming forward. Ashley Yoder, a lot of people sleep on her, but she is an 8-6 fighter. Angela Hill's 11-9. Something's got to give. And I've just seen, other than the loss she had to Dern back in 2018, I just seen Yoder lose some fights she probably shouldn't have lost. She did come off that win last November against Granger where I kind of slept on her, but she looked fantastic. But I'm going to stick with Angela Hill. How you see that fight going?
I too like Angela Hill, like Ashley Yoder. Like I've been a fan of hers, but I too think Angela Hill's just gonna win again. To me, like their career is kind of like parallel, where it's just like they've been in fights where maybe they shouldn't have been in them because maybe, you know, they were just too young. You know, they didn't have the experience. You know, they didn't have the proper training, but they're fighters, so they're gonna fight. And that's why their records are like two above 500.
And I'm sorry, I said 11-9. Angela Hill's 12-9.
Yeah. So I think that there was like Angela is like say she really good camp. You know, she hangs out with the Alliance. I'm not sure who Yoder's hanging out with, but I think they're now on the right path. But I just think Angela Hill is just a better striker. And I think she'll take out Yoder.
They're close to each other. She's Ashley Yoder's with Team Quest. But you know, Angela Hill's last two fights have been split decision losses. You know, Waterson, Gadea. You know, they're not losses. They're not tough losses, and she could have won both those fights depending on how you looked at it. So, I look forward to get back on that. Any other fights stand out on that card before we let you get out of here?
Nah, man, of course, I can't forget, man. The first fight of the night, man. I gotta show love to my boy Dustin Jacoby, you know, fellow kickboxer. You saw his last fight when he came back. If he can finish this guy, I think he's gonna get another finish too. First fight of the night, ladies and gents. Make sure you watch those early prelims.
Grisham looked good his last fight. He had that quick TKO in the second round on that Ortega card. But he also lost to Tabora kind of sloppily the fight before that. So gonna be a fun fight. I'm looking forward to that. And then I can't believe the ladies man over here didn't mention it, but I'm looking forward to that Alexis Davis, Sabina Mazo. I can't believe I'm the one that pointed out two ladies fights, but it happens.
Hey man, quick, I got to support the kickboxers and I got to support the teammates, man. The ladies will come later, you know?
Yeah, and I'm hoping Alex Oliveira gets a fight because I'd love watching him fight. So him, and then also Macy Chizon and Maria Renault's back on the card. She's been out for a while. She's back. So there's some really good ladies fights coming up on this card this weekend. Obviously, the big boys are dominating the headlines, but it's going to be a fun card. Everybody tune in this Saturday. Real quick before we get out of here, Brandon, isn't there something they should do on our videos every week?
Oh, like and subscribe, and also leave a comment too, man. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, even more. I'll tell you, I'll go out of the way. Even more than liking and subscribing. Yeah, we want you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get every episode and don't miss anything. And I love seeing that you like it because, you know, it tells us what we're doing good and what we're not. But those comments, like look at last week. People left some comments. Me and Brandon are in the comments section. We're engaging. We just want to talk. We want to have good fun talking about fights. And we want to know that you're watching and what you like and don't like. If you don't like something, tell us why. We love feedback, good and bad. So get in those comments. I know this episode was all over the place, a little bit out of order as far as what comes next. So feel free, scroll along the table of contents. I'll probably throw in a little bit of what comes next before we hop into the picks on the table of contents so you can just kind of jump right into it. Make sure you head over to artofmma.com/shop. Got the new Legendary T series in there. Started off with a shirt inspired by Bruce Lee. The next one's going to be another MMA legend. Obviously, Bruce Lee is the start of MMA, no matter who you talk to, bringing martial arts into Hollywood, and that performance and that excitement that you get to see. It's the same reason UFC put him in one of the video games. He is one of the people that a lot of these guys have gotten into this sport because they love karate, they love kung fu, they love people like Bruce Lee and other martial artists. So that was why that was first. There you go. Leave a comment. Let me know which MMA legend should be featured next, and we'll go from there. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Art of MMA for myself and Brandon. Thanks for watching.